Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil mursaleen Sayyidina wa Maulana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Walladhina kafaru ba'duhum awliya'u ba'd. Illa taf'aluhu takun fitnatan fil ardi wa fasad kabira. This ayah from the Quran from Surah Anfal, verse 73, explained as follows. And as for those who disbelieve, they are friends one to another. Hence, if you, O Muslims, do not act as has been ordained for you to help one another, there will be persecution and great corruption in the land. These same enemies of Islam, the enemies of Muslims that destroyed the Khilafat in 1924, still bedevil the Ummah, and they have once again sowed destruction in the Muslim world. And it is demonstrated for the past few decades with the coup against Mohammed Morsi in Egypt, the turmoil that started in Tunisia, in Libya, the civil war, within a civil war in Syria, and we can see the destruction that is being sown in Syria at the moment, the tribal wars in Sudan, in Yemen, and of course, the unending horrific slaughter and genocide in Gaza. Our problems got worse with something that I want to remind you about, the Sykes-Picot Agreement. This happened 110 years ago in May 2016 when the Muslim lands were divided into what they call today nation states. And this fragmented and divided the Ummah. And then we have 9/11, and it provided an opportunity to totally paralyze the Muslim nation states. I want to remind you of a person, he was a four-star general, Wesley Clark. He was a former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, and he revealed in 2003, shortly after 9/11 took place in 2001, that the neocons, they call them neoconservatives in the Bush administration of the United States of America, they crafted a sweeping plan to make the Middle East totally into Israel's favor. After they toppled the Taliban in Afghanistan, the plan was to dismantle seven Muslim majority countries: Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Libya, Sudan, Somalia, and ultimately Iran. This was their plan. And now, if you look at it, look, Iran totally in a mess. Lebanon, Syria still going on. Libya still internecine fighting going on. Sudan is in an absolute shambles. Somalia completely defanged. And what did they say? With freeing the Iraqis from Saddam Hussein. Of course, they used the weapons of mass destruction, the WMDs, as an excuse. They said that we are freeing the Afghanistans from the Taliban. We are freeing the Libyans from Gaddafi. We are freeing the Gazans from Hamas. We are freeing the Lebanese from Hezbollah. And they are saying now that they want to free the Iranians from the Ayatollahs. Oh no, what they really do mean is that they will remove any independent government that resists Western colonialism and replace it with puppet regimes who will let those people, the West and Israel, allow them to loot the wealth of their own countries, of their own land, of their own labor, of their own resources. This is what they want: absolute, total control. And they will do it all in the name of freedom, of democracy, or in the interest of peace and stability. This has been exposed as a sham. In fact, there was a summit just recently, 3 weeks ago, 25th of June, when NATO declared, and I'm going to quote it verbatim. It says, "We reaffirm our ironclad commitment to the collective defense of each other as enshrined in Article 5 of the Washington Treaty, that an attack on one is an attack on all. These 32 NATO member states also announced that they will spend 5% of their GDP on defense and security. This is a reflection of the ayat that I just quote, Baduhum awliya bad. They are allies, protectors one of the other. Now compare this to the Organization of Islamic Conference. They had a meeting sometime, 20th of June, 3 weeks ago. They had a meeting in Istanbul, 57 Muslim countries. And they came up with a statement, shamefully unable to provide a drop of water to Gaza, let alone to defend the Muslim Ummah. Now, the OIC, Organization of Islamic Conference, it was actually established in 1969 as a response to the attack on Al-Aqsa Mosque in 1969, which outraged then the Muslim world. And the aim of the OIC was to foster Islamic solidarity, to protect the Islamic holy sites, including Masjid al-Aqsa, to support the Palestinian cause and enhance cooperation between the Muslim majority states. But we see instead that the OIC is a feeble, fragile, powerless, toothless body, where most of the leaders of the OIC are illegitimate rulers. They're there to protect their own rulership, their own thrones. They buy weapons from the Western countries not to confront the enemies of Islam, but to suppress and oppress its own citizens. Their wealth, their petrodollars, is banked where? In the Western countries. For decades, the right-wing racist neocons, they collaborated with the Zionists, and their meeting place is in Herzliya, in Israel, and they push out vilifying Muslims, and it is known as Islamophobia. In fact, one of the biggest supporters of Israel is the New York Times, a very influential newspaper based in the United States. And way back in 1996, they said that the red menace is gone, but yes, Islam. Red menace was the communist. In fact, Thomas Friedman, he clearly declared, he says, we want a war within Islam. Not a war with Islam, a war within Islam. That means let Muslim fight Muslim. Now, as we look around, Islam is really the defining feature of most of the world's Muslims. You know, everything that we do, our behavior, our education, the way we dress, our eating habits, reflects our Islam. You know, there was a time when the Serbs, in fact, the 35th anniversary just took place when they went into the camps and destroyed the Bosnian Muslims. And they were kept in concentration camps. They were thin. And they asked them, why are these people so skeletal that they are not deprived, that they are deprived of food? He says, well, they don't want to eat pork. Therefore, they are so thin. But this is not only the Serbs. You know, when we talk about Islam and the Christians, when it went there for the first time, and they said, you know, the Catholics, when you die, when the men die, the women are not allowed to remarry. But here came Islam, where you had people with multiple wives. And not only that, the women were allowed to remarry, so they regarded it as a threat to their way of life. In fact, in India itself, where the women, when the husbands dies, they cremated together with the husbands. But Islam came to remove those things and were regarded as a threat. But there was a study that I want to just emphasize a little bit on, is known as Civil Democratic Islam. This came about a year or two. It was published by the RAND Corporation just a year or two after 9/11 took place. And they actually wanted to place the Muslims on a spectrum, how dangerous it is. It was edited by Cheryl Bernard, and I think it will be worthwhile Googling Civil Democratic Islam, and you will understand how well they studied Muslims. They examine a number of issues like democracy. What do Muslims think about criminal punishments, about Islamic justice, about minorities, about whether women can wear hijab, or how they dress? Are husbands allowed to beat up their wives? About jihad and so on. And then they categorize the Muslims. That this Muslim is progressive, this is modernist, this is traditional or orthodox, this Muslim is a fundamentalist, and this Muslim is a moderate. And then they further divided the Muslims into extremists, Orthodox, Wahhabi, Sunni, Shia, Salafi, Sufi, secular, Barelvi, and Deoban, and so on. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Hajj, the last verse, He has named us Muslims. In fact, the same study, one of the researchers by the name of Angel Rabasa, he then suggested to exploit Sunni and Shia and Arab and non-Arab, whether you're Turkish or Iranian versus the Arab or not. And which one promotes US policy objectives in the Muslim world? Even more damaging, I think, is what I talked about earlier, the Sykes-Picot Agreement, where they fragmented the Muslims into nation states. Now, even more dangerous for the Muslim is the sectarian division that we face, primarily between the Sunni and the Shia. There's another report that was issued in the United States of America. It was entitled Hearts, Minds, and Donors. And yeah, they said that the aim, and they spend millions and millions of dollars, not only to influence Muslim societies, but Islam itself. This is the dangers that we face. The instruments and the agents where they use is through organizations, and I want to just focus one. Besides the NGOs and the media and so on, there's a vast array of agents that they do to divide the Muslims. One of the agents is Mossad. And, I was wondering, how is it possible for them to kill so many leaders of the Muslims just like that? How did they actually do this? I mean, they killed Sheikh Ahmed Yassin in Gaza and Dr. Rantisi. Then they killed Ismail Haniya recently in Iran, Sheikh Nasrallah in Beirut. And they killed the generals, they killed the scientists, Yahya Ayyash, and others like Fatih Shikaki and Yahya Sinwar. All of them, some of them in Europe as well. So it's widespread. They kill them through their cell phones, through pages, and their drones. In fact, a book by way of deception or rise and kill first are written by Mossad agents previously, and they said how well they planned. They're very organized, the enemies of Islam. It takes years and years of meticulous planning, of patience, of diligence, recruiting spies within us. In those of us who were in the struggle against apartheid, we call them impimpies. They are the informers. Many of these organizations are used for intelligence gathering. There's a revelation recently that in the United Kingdom alone, there have been 15,000 informers. In the UK alone, just day before yesterday, there was a leaked article about Afghanistanis, 20,000 of them in Afghanistan against the Taliban. It was leaked where the names of those people were revealed in Kabul, and now they're terrified because the Taliban have a list of these names. It was leaked by mistake, and a lot of them now want to go to the UK for their protection. In fact, the International Criminal Court that has charged Netanyahu, the previous one, Karim Khan is leading it now. The previous one, her name was Fatou Bensouda. She had a file of those Israeli soldiers that have committed this genocide. And she did nothing. She sat on that file. It was recently revealed that she actually said that Mossad have threatened her life and the lives of her children if she didn't made any revelation. Karim Khan has now been so-called suspended because they fabricated some evidence against him, and they said he must stop this prosecution of Netanyahu and Gallant. And if he does not do so, they will reveal certain things about him and threaten his family. This is how Mossad has played. They take it years, decades to plan. You know, if you just take Iran recently, I mean, they wiped out the generals, they wiped out the scientists, they tried several revolutions against him. There was an organization that was funded by the West. They called it Mujahideen al-Khalq. Well, now we call it Munafiqin al-Khalq, you know, where there was color revolutions, there were counter-revolutionaries, where they wanted to remove the Iranians. In South Africa itself, Mossad works. And time will not permit, but let me just tell you, in 2015, Al Jazeera revealed a documentary known as Spy Cables. That was exactly 10 years ago. And they talked about how El Al, the Israeli airline, used to work as a front for Mossad. And there was a killing that took place in Dubai where the Mossad agents killed a Hamas operative in a hotel, flew to OR Tambo and from there to Israel. They were hand in glove with the Mossad agents. They, in fact, stole the anti-tank missile planes from Denel in our own manufacturing arms manufacturers here, and they sold it to the Israelis. They stole it, and in fact, when they found out, they started negotiating that if you do this some things here, then we will not. We remember even our international relations minister was threatened. And she said so openly. Mossad, now look at the arrogance of these people that they're able to do that. One of the most effective anti Zionist groups here, BDS, became a problem for them. And they went to the South African government. They went and cooperated with our security agents that if you do not, we will release Stuxnet and a cyber warfare against your business dealings and so on, and cripple the rand. Every protest march that we have, every masjid has people that actually work for them. So we need to become aware of certain agents that are within South Africa as well. We have people that they control through the media, like Daily Maverick or Business News. There's a person by the name of Alec Hogg. He's a famous a writer here. Greg Mills, Brentus Foundation. It works for the Zionists, you know. They are all Mossad operatives. In fact, just down here in Erasmia, not too long ago, a person by the name of Hussein Solomons was working for the University of Pretoria. He actually went to this place that I mentioned earlier, Heslia, and he talked about Islamic terrorism, Muslims in South Africa working as terrorists. So they use Muslims as well, and they try to earn your trust. How many agents are in our masjid that work and destabilize our solidarity movements? And this is not something that I'm just picking it off. Do we know that French Chicana in South Africa, he was poisoned? Do we remember that? And they even kidnapped somebody for taking part in the 9/11. The lesson I want to put forward, it doesn't matter what shade or what flavor of Islam one chooses, Sunni, Shia, Salafi, Barelvi, it doesn't matter. You pose a danger to them if you insist that you are a Muslim. Now, we must remember that generally it is Allah's law that truth is in permanent confrontation with falsehood. Whenever the light of truth emerges, the forces of darkness will gather to extinguish it. And it is something that we must know that when you're a Muslim, whether you're moderate or categorized as fundamentalist, you are going to be targeted. We need to take examples from the Sahaba that we have to stand up for the truth. And if you do that, then you are going to be targeted. Allah tells us in the Quran, "Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim." Verily, Allah does not change a condition of a people until they first change their ways and their mindsets. What I propose is that we set up training camps for our youngsters, our youth. And not only do we go to the protest marches and we create media awareness on social media, on mosque platforms, and so on. There is a there was a documentary in China where they actually take their children from standard 9 matric first year varsities, send them to camps. There they indoctrinate them on communism and find out how can they, develop this patriotism for China. The same thing the designers do. They send their youth to Israel. In China, they did it for 3 weeks. In Israel, they do it for a year. The ruling party, BJP, has an offshoot known as RSS. They took their youth for decades and they eventually mentally made them dominant and control India. We as Muslims, where are our youth camps? Where are our children that actually understand Islam? There are youth camps that are happening, and this is what I want to conclude with. There is a youth camp that's taking place in Turkey where they teach you spiritual growth, intellectual development, political education, where Tawhid is taught its meaning and application in today's world. They teach you how to read the Quran, but build a Quranic character. They make you understand the seerah from a geopolitical perspective, and they teach you the ethics of disagreement. I think more importantly, perhaps, is they teach you public activism, political analysis, media training, data security, legal protection, education, how to manage your time techniques, fundraising, and leadership development. I do believe that every Muslim organization, every mosque, every school, every madrasa committee needs to seriously consider, because there is no doubt in my mind that there is a structured, organized attack on Islam and Muslims wherever you are. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthen the ummah. May we avoid becoming instruments that perpetuate internecine strife. May we pool our resources against the real enemies of Islam, for victory is certain and only in Allah, and it is only in Allah's hands. So, akhir dawana, alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله الذي امتن على عباده بنبيه المرسل صلى الله عليه وسلم وكتابه المنزل حتى اتسع على أهل الأفكار طريق الاعتبار بما فيه من القصص والأخبار، واتضح به سلوك المنهج القويم والصراط المستقيم، فصل فيه من الأحكام وفرق بين الحلال والحرام. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد عبده ورسوله الذي نزل الفرقان عليه ليكون للعالمين نذيرا. صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه الذين تذكروا بالقرآن وذكروا به الناس تذكيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام: يقال لصاحب القرآن: اقرأ وارتق ورتل كما كنت ترتل في الدنيا، فإن منزلك عند آخر آية تقرأها. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام: من قرأ حرفا من كتاب الله فله حسنة، والحسنة بعشر أمثالها. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام: من قرأ القرآن فاستظهره فأحل حلاله وحرم حرامه أدخله الله الجنة، وشفعه في 10 من أهل بيته كلهم قد وجبت له النار. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. فلا أقسم بمواقع النجوم، وإنه لقسم لو تعلمون عظيم، إنه لقرآن كريم في كتاب مكنون لا يمسه إلا المطهرون. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم، ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم. أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه، إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه، ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له، ومن يضلله فلا هادي له. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي، يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك، وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات، وبارك على محمد وأزواجه وذريته. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر، وأشدهم في أمر الله عمر، وأصدقهم حياء عثمان، وأقضاهم علي، وفاطمة سيدة نساء أهل الجنة، والحسن والحسين سيدا شباب أهل الجنة، وحمزة أسد الله وأسد رسوله، رضوان الله تعالى عليهم أجمعين. اللهم اغفر للعباس وولده مغفرة ظاهرة وباطنة لا تغادر ذنبا. اللهم أيد الإسلام وأنصاره، وأذل الشرك وأشراره. اللهم وفقنا لما تحب وترضى، واجعل آخرتنا خيرا من الأولى. اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا منهم، واخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا معهم. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي، يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم، ولذكر الله تعالى أعلى وأولى وأعز وأجل وأهم وأتم وأكبر، والله يعلم ما تصنعون. أقيم الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. فلا صدق ولا صلى ولكن كذب وتولى، ثم ذهب إلى أهله يتمطى. أولى لك فأولى ثم أولى لك فأولى. أيحسب الإنسان أن يترك سدى؟ ألم يك نطفة من مني يمنى، ثم كان علقة فخلق فسوى، فجعل منه الزوجين الذكر والأنثى. أليس ذلك بقادر على أن يحيي الموتى؟ الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى، بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى. إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى، صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم انت السلام ومنك السلام، انت باركت على الجلال الإكرام. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك واغننا بفضلك عمن سواك. اللهم اجعلنا عبادك الصالحين. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك بفضل سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
I'm going on. Lot of questions. It's me. Put you on your phone. If you are on